You're listening to Investify, preaching financial independence and assisting investors to achieve a more flexible and free lifestyle through smart financial planning and real estate investing. If leaving the corporate world and jumping into this thriving industry is what you desire, tune in and listen to stories of like-minded individuals who made the leap to financial independence. Equip yourself with the right tips and tricks to start your real estate journey, making active or passive ventures that are highly profitable and rewarding. Here are your hosts, Craig Curelop and Ziana McIntyre.
What's going on, everybody? You are listening to Investify. My name is Craig Curelop, aka the Fi Guy, and I'm here doing a solo show today because Z Money is out gallivanting somewhere in Sicily or Italy or Croatia or somewhere way cooler than I am, unfortunately. But I have the privilege of interviewing an amazing guest today by the name of Sean Allen and hanging out with all of you listeners, so I think she's actually drawing the short straw on this one. And so what is new with my life, right? We're recording this on the 4th of July, or I guess just after the 4th of July. We had a wedding party back home for all of my Massachusetts friends and family that I grew up with, and then had a fun time down down the beach for the 4th of July, which is a tradition in my family. If you don't know anything about me or my family, the 4th of July for us is kind of like Thanksgiving to everybody else, where we don't care that much about Thanksgiving. I rarely go home for Thanksgiving, but 4th of July, I try never to miss because it's pretty special in my family. So that's a little update on my life and what I've been doing the last couple days, if anyone's interested. But what's even more interesting is our guest today, Sean Allen, who has kind of been on a similar journey as me, even though we really just met today. And, you know, he's got some successful out-of-state investments in North Carolina. He's got some successful house hacks in an expensive area. He's doing it with a partner, and it's just all really interesting to see his entire story and how it all lays out and the success that he's had. So let's bring him on the show. Sean Allen, welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing today, dude?
I'm doing great. Good to see you, Craig.
Yeah, man, it's good to see you too, and I hear and see that you're doing big and bad things, and I can't wait to dig into it. But why don't we take it way, way back to where it all started, man? When did you first hear about financial independence?
All right. The first time I heard about financial independence, I read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It was actually August 25th, 2010.
Wow.
I was in New York State. You never heard of it?
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyone can read it. It's good for like a 10-year-old, 11-year-old to read. But sure. I didn't read it until I was about 22. And the author, Robert, he talks about his rich dad and his poor dad as examples. And that was my first really introduction to this whole thing of financial independence.
Awesome. And so, obviously, I know a lot of people have started out with that book. And so August of 2010, you're 22. You just got out of college at that time?
Yes, I got out of college, civil engineering degree. I just was stepping foot into my first class in business school.
Okay, so you're starting off with that corporate mindset, right? Going to college for 4 years, about to go to business school for another 2 years or whatever. And so did something change right then and there in August of 2010? Or did it take a couple years? Oh, it did. You took action right away. So what happened?
I was like, I need to start a business. And so the only thing I thought I could do is public speaking. So I started a company called First Impressions Speak Forever. And I created signs on 18 by 24 little phone boards, put them all throughout town. And I started getting phone calls. And what I found out was I didn't really have anything to say that anyone wanted to hear. So I didn't really do much public speaking at that time, but at least I took the first leap in, establishing the business and what that looks like.
What do you mean that you put up the signs? You didn't say anything that anyone wanted to hear. Like, what do you mean by that?
I put public speaking and then my phone number, and then people called, and literally the same day, people called and said, "Hey, I'm a public speaker. I'm interested. Are you guys hiring?" I'm like, no. I'm a public speaker. I'm trying to get hired to speak. And they're like, "Well, I'll send you my resume anyway." And so they sent me their resume, and I realized that their resume was horrible. And I was like, I can help you with your resume. And that was the beginning of my first business, which was later started as Sean's Resume Shop, where I have helped over 350 clients with resumes and career coaching. That all came from reading that book, and he talked about business is the quickest way to millionaireship. Real estate is the most common way to wealth.
Wow. Isn't that funny how you started your business? It's kind of like how like the Post-it notes people started theirs, right? It was a total mistake, right? Like got some tape on the back of a piece of paper and, oh, shoot, this actually makes a lot of sense. And you started a resume shop because you had a bunch of people apply for your job that never even existed, and they had horrible resumes. And for some reason, so did your college train you to have good resumes, or how come yours was so good?
Excellent. So in college, I had a knack for helping out undergrad students with professional development and what are you going to do after college, or what are you going to do with your life. And so I had that need to kind of give back. And so when the resume came in, I kind of went into autopilot mode. I was like, I can work with this. And at first I didn't really charge, or I charged like $30 or something. And after I worked with about 10 clients in the first couple of months, I was like, I'm enjoying doing this, but this can actually bring in some income while I'm here in graduate school. So I gave it a shot.
Wow. Heck yeah. And so that was a side hustle for you. Was it just a one-man show and you did 350 and then you decided it was done? Or did you end up hiring employees and scaling?
It was a one-man show for the first 2 years. And then in 2013, I started to bring in some consultants. A couple of my friends were looking for work. And I was like, hey, I need some kind of help with client intake. People are going to call. Here's the questions. Here's the script. And every resume you kind of gloss over at first, and I'll do the final edits, I would pay them. So I had I think I had 3 contractors that I brought on in the span of a couple of years. And I still do the resume writing, and I'm certified now in resume writing, certified in career coaching. We'll talk about how I transition that into the real estate coaching, I guess, a little later on as well.
Yeah, okay. So awesome, man. So that's funny, right? Like you start this business basically by accident. You start to scale it. You start to get some momentum. Like this thing, it's definitely a thing. Like I as an employer, I've seen a lot of bad resumes, and I've seen my friends from different schools send me their resumes, and I'm just like, what in God's name? Like, did you throw together a Word document and what? And so, okay, 2013, you got 3 people. What are those like? What is that business? What does that look like from a business perspective? Like, what was your revenue? What was your margins? Is that profitable?
Yeah. So when I started, my expenses were very low because I literally spent about $40 on the signs that I put in. I put about 22 signs out, and some of them are probably still out there. I still get calls, which is kind of weird, from a New York number. And they're like, hey, do you do resumes? Yes. But anyway, my costs were very low. It was just a service-based business, did not have a website, did not have anything. And so everything I made was pretty much profit. And to fast forward throughout those 10 years, 2015 was probably my best year, where I would spend about 3 hours per client. And in 1 month, I did about 20 clients, thanks to LinkedIn, Groupon, Facebook marketing, Yellow Pages, went Yelp Business, Yelp Regular, 22 clients. And that year, I grossed $22,000 just from doing resumes.
Wow. And that was just a side hustle for you?
That was just a side hustle. Yeah, I was a full-time engineer. At that time, I was involved in the community. I was, exercising, having a social life, anything else that any other 24, 25-year-old would be doing. But that was how I spent about 10, 15 hours a week on that side business.
Wow. And so you started off just putting signs out, and that was basically your marketing. And then you kind of got into the 21st century, and you started doing Facebook and all that. And so how much were you spending on those ads?
Oh, I love it. These are great questions. So when I started, I was a traditional approach. So I actually hired a resume writer in 2010 to apply to graduate school, and I didn't like the interface. I didn't like how they send you a questionnaire, you type in everything, and then boop, voila, there's your resume. It was very non-social, and so I wanted to make sure I had a traditional approach. So when I came to marketing, that was one of my strategies. Was you're going to work directly with me. It's not going to be some robot somewhere in a different country, directly to me. So I wanted the clients to come to me. I paid Yelp $400, and at that time, $400 per month. Yelp had marketing research that said for every dollar you spend on cost per click advertising, we'll send you $4. And that's exactly what happened. I would spend $400 on the advertising, and they would send me about $1,400 worth of gross business. So you deduct the math, it was about $1,000 to $1,100 profit just from the Yelp marketing, and that was my best form of marketing.
Wow. So Yelp, I've never heard of anybody using Yelp marketing. That's interesting.
Well,
yeah, so that worked.
Yeah. So you've actually, if you've ever went on a Yelp before, and you've ever requested a quote from a plumber, electrician, a writer, what happens is you'll get the paid pages first. Those who pay sponsors ads, they'll come up first. And then sometimes with a sponsored ad, you could remove competitors. So if you say, I want a plumber, oh, I found Craig Plumbing, let's go there. Boom, here's 5 others. You want to get quotes from these 2? As a paid customer, you can remove those. And that's what really helped me, because there's a decent amount of resume writers in any radius. There's career counseling, career coaches, career consultants, writers, resume writers, editors. But for me, I had that great knack where I was in Downey, California, and I submitted it and I got clients, and it was very beneficial. It was the best form of marketing I did compared to like the 6 or 7 others.
Wow. Okay. And in your pitch, and the thing that makes you different is that the clients got to work directly with you versus a robot. Now, I know that in business, you really want to kind of remove yourself from the business, but you kind of maybe pigeonholed yourself there. And so did you get out of that, or?
Yes. And so that's why we're talking today, because now I have Sean the Real Goal Setter. And with Sean the Real Goal Setter, that's on TikTok. That's my handle. That's cool. But more importantly, I'm about focusing on how do we help potential investors, current investors, or homeowners become homeowners. And there's a way to do that instead of just picking up the phone and saying, all right, let's talk through it. There's the way we can use technology via ebooks, via courses, via other means, webinars, seminars. And that's how the business has kind of transitioned over the past really 2 years, since 2021, really, in getting out of the, I can help you with the resume, and focusing on the clients. It's like, hey, I want to buy a house. How do I do it? Great. I got a 10-step plan for you. I got a 12-month plan for you. I got some videos for you. I got some cool TikToks. I got some dance moves. Whatever you need to be able to get that real estate investment, I can work with them on it and not take the more traditional approach where it's just picking up the phone and talking about it.
Sure, man. I love that. I love that approach to real estate. I guess, like, it seems kind of like not the smoothest transition. So maybe explain how you went from building resumes to helping people in real estate.
Oof, that's a loaded question. So Sean's Resume Shop started in 2013, October 2013. I bought my first property in December of 2013. It's a big year. And I didn't really know what I was doing. You know, we can talk about the hurdles. It was a short sale. It was out of state. It took 6 months to close. But that was the first time I bought property. Fast forward 5-6 years later, 2017, 18, I became more of a house hacking expert. And house hacking, we'll talk about that too. I bought it, I lived in a part of the house, and I rented it out. Meanwhile, I'm still doing the resumes and all that on the side. I'm a live-in landlord managing, grown people who may act like kids sometimes. But I'm doing resumes, and I'm working a full-time job, and trying to exercise, and have a good time, and spend time with family, right? So the transition happened because it's like my time was limited. I'm putting in 70-hour work weeks. I got to pull back on the 15 hours from resumes and start to add maybe 5 hours on real estate. And that's where that transition started to happen, where it's like, all right, let me do less of the resumes of the traditional phone call approach, and let me focus on how do I coach clients through career development along with real estate, because they go hand in hand. Your career and where you live are 2 of the most important things, right? It determines school districts, it determines your standard of living. And so that's where that transition started to happen. Like 2018, I got a license to sell real estate in California, actually in 2017. And so now I can actually start to work with clients and help them buy and sell property on the side. And I have my investing experience and I have my career coaching experience. Let's all match them together. And that's where we are. Okay.
Now that makes perfect sense, right? And so you kind of just, you just said it, right? Is you took the 2 side hustles you had, and you kind of were like, okay, I'm not making as much with the resume stuff as I potentially could with real estate, and I'm probably spending more time on resumes than I would real estate. And so how do you take teaching people how to build a resume? Instead of that, you're taking the same exact skills that you have and just teaching people how to do real estate, which is, again, right, obviously this is a real estate show. Everybody who listens knows that it's one of the best ways, and this is actually a big house hacking show too. And we actually, funny enough, we have similar stories where I kind of started house hacking in 2017 too, did the whole rent by the room thing and all that good stuff. And so let's get a little into, so now we're in 2017, right? And so you're like, all right, you've got a couple rental properties now. Actually, what I want to do, I want to go back to 2013 real quick, and I want to talk about your first deal. So we have this on this show. We've got the For Real Deal.
The For Real Deal. There you go.
That is the first deal that you've done intentionally as a real estate investor. And so if you remember the numbers, we'd love to dive in and see what those are.
I do remember the numbers. Yes, I have all the numbers. I got dates for you, all kind of good stuff.
Beautiful. Let's get into that first one.
All right, so we'll start with early 2013. I'm sitting in office as an engineer. I'm talking to my coworker who became friends, who became roommates, and we started investing in the stock market together. We didn't do so good on the stock market, so that wasn't our thing. But we vibed on real estate. We said, well, maybe we should do some real estate together. I was like, well, where do we do it? He was from Chicago. Shout out to David Shea. I'm from North Carolina. Went to school in North Carolina. I said, well, what do you think about the Chicago market? I said, well, what do I think about the North Carolina market? Long story short, after about 10 meetings spread out over 10 months, we decided, let's go to an area that's affordable, that we're comfortable with, that we already have a network of realtors, handyman, contractors, whatever it may be. We decided on North Carolina. And since it's in the South, it was a little bit more affordable than $500,000 for property in California. Actually, we said, how about $70,000? Is that doable? It's like, actually, we can get a condo for $70,000 in North Carolina. And we would split it 50-50, which means if we need 20% down off something that's $70,000, you do the math, that's $14,000. That's 7 from me, 7 from him. We said, this could actually work. Let's plan a trip to North Carolina.
Okay, hell yeah. So you got a partner. That always helps, and always helps you kind of like, that whole saying of, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, partner up. And so you found a partner. Where in North Carolina did you look?
Greensboro, North Carolina is the school, is where my school attended for undergrad. So that's where we started. Okay,
so Greensboro, North Carolina, and that's where all your connections are. And you said something there too, right? It's like people, when you try to invest out of state, it's hard to pick a market because you have every single market in the country at your fingertips, and it's like, well, which one do you pick? But you went with easy, right? And I tell everybody, go with easy. Go where you know people, where you've got contractors and property managers and real estate agents, and you've got your network, and just move forward there. Because there's deals in every market. So the market you pick is not that important. It's just more important that you take action and move forward. And so,
exactly.
All right, so you're in Greensboro, North Carolina. You're buying this first property for $70,000. You and your buddy are splitting it, and you're putting $14,000 total, $7,000 each into it as a down payment. And so, did you have to do any renovations to it, or was it all fixed up?
All right, so we'll take a step back because it was a little bit more difficult than that.
Okay.
We said, okay, $70,000 is what we're looking at. We've talked to our real estate agent. Said, can you find us property for $70,000? Sure. She found 3. They were 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom condos. None of them really needed any work, right? And but then there was one that popped on the market that was built in 2006, and it was tagged as a short sale. And I didn't know what a short sale was, but all I knew is May 2007, it sold for $90,000. It was on the market for $51,000. It was like, something's going on. We like this. And so that's the one that we pursued. And we made our offer on August 1st of 2013. And that started the process on purchasing our first property, investment property out of state. And it was a short sale. And we lived in California, and this was in North Carolina. It was our first one doing it as partners together.
Wow, so that's a lot to get into in your first one. Can you maybe just describe what a short sale is and what makes it so difficult to get one of those?
Sure. Yeah, so a short sale is, as we know, real estate market goes up and down. Everyone might be talking about buying in a dip, wait for the crash, whatever may happen. Property appreciates and it depreciates. But they're not making any more land, right? So you kind of look at the long trend, right? So a short sale happens when, let's say, there's a certain market that's going up and down, and someone happens to buy it, when it is on its way up. And, this person bought it, and they may have taken out another mortgage. They may have taken a line of credit out of the equity. They say, well, I bought it for $60,000, but it's now worth $90,000. And so I'm going to just borrow that $20,000 to pay some bills, buy a boat, whatever, right? So now their mortgage is $50,000, and they have a second mortgage that's, another $20,000. Because it's worth $90,000. Well, when the market might have came down just a little bit, and other properties that were similar were selling for $50,000 when this house was listed, that if they were to sell the house for $50,000, it would be short of paying off the total amount of mortgages, which is somewhere around $75,000. And the person really needed to sell because they actually had another job opportunity somewhere. They needed 30 days to leave, so they had to sell. If they were to wait, maybe it would have came back up. So that qualified as a short sale. What makes it difficult is Now you got other people kind of in the mix, i.e. the bank, and it has to be approved. Most states, the bank has to approve to sell it because someone's going to miss out. Are they going to waive some of that mortgage or some of those liens or some of those bills not paid? Or are they going to play with the price? So there's a little bit more involvement than just a buyer and a seller when it comes to a short sale.
Right. And so that's great. That's a great explanation, right? So in short, it's just, you're selling the house for less than what you owe on it, and you have to now get a bank to basically approve that sale, right? Because they're losing money on it.
Correct.
And so that's where the obstacles come in. And so, 2013, there were probably a lot of those because we were kind of fresh out of 2009, 2008, 2009 crash.
Correct.
And so awesome, man. And so you bought this thing you bought it for $51,000, so not $70,000.
Actually, yes, correct. We actually offered $58,000, and after about 2 months of waiting, just a lot of waiting, it's like, what's going to happen? Everyone's like, you're buying your first house. I think so. I don't know. 2 months of waiting. It's $58,000, and we had to do everything else. We had to do a home inspection. We had to do, get some type of appraisal. In North Carolina, you had to do a radon inspection. We had to do the full loan approval. What happened is the negotiation happened, and we settled on $51,000. And we were wondering, okay, are we going to be responsible for these bills that aren't paid? The home was in default, and we got approval from the bank that says, no, you're going to buy the property as is. There was a couple of changes at the last minute. The appraisal came in 10 days before we were supposed to close in October. Remember, we made the offer August 1st. Mm-hmm. It's October, and it was 58 down to 51. Appraisal comes in at 53,000. We said, all right, we get it for 53. Boom, get it. You guys are ready to close. That was October. We didn't close in October, Craig. We didn't close in November. But on December 23rd, I guess I was nice that year.
The eve of Christmas.
2 days before Christmas.
Yeah.
I was excited. We were blessed with our first property. It was purchased for $53,000. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. It needed no renovations. Actually, I drove by with my parents, walked in, and I was like, "Oh, I can live here." And we got in a property management company, and within a couple of months, contract was signed, and we still own that property to this day.
Wow. Okay, so a lot to unpack there. You bought this property for $53,000. Now, what took it so long? Right? What were some of the implications? Because you don't hear too much about that when people are buying houses.
Yeah, so since it was a short sale, we had to wait on the bank. So off the bat, there was a 2-month delay. So it wasn't until October where they said, this is a bank-approved short sale. You guys can continue with your process. Because, there's some fees that you incur while you're buying property. You have to lock in your interest rate, right, for a certain amount of time. Usually it's 45 days. And every time you extend it, especially if the rate is going up, you as the buyer are going to be paying for that. So that was a difficulty. And then the appraisal. Well, that's only $550, but that's still money out the door. Why pay for an appraiser to estimate the value of the property when you don't even know if it's going to be accepted by a bank or if you're going to even get close to closing? So then we had to kind of push the appraisal a little bit and wait for a right time. So finally we got bank approval in October. We got the property appraised. We paid for a bug inspection. We paid for a radon inspection. We paid for a home inspection. You're talking $1,500 for all this at this point. This is typical stuff as a buyer. You want to do all your inspections because once you get that property, if you find a dead body in the basement, that is your now dead body that you have to deal with. And so we did all that. I'm talking October and November. So that hopefully Thanksgiving would be ready to close and everything was good.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. And you said something there too that I really like that I've learned my lesson with is pay for your inspections, right? Don't be cheap on inspections. You should be getting, I vowed now that I will do a full inspection every single time with the sewer scope, structural, and radon. All of that stuff, and I don't care if I'm paying $2,000 for inspections because that will save you. I recently had a deal that kind of blew up in my face with structural issues. And, I kind of looked over the small crack in the near the window and ended up being a huge expense that I had to offload the property for. So do your inspections. That is definitely a good form of advice.
Right.
And so you're closing this thing December 23rd.
Correct.
You found a bank to give you a loan because I know that's a really, really small loan, right? You're talking, 40-ish thousand?
Correct.
And so I know that banks oftentimes have minimum spends or minimum loan amounts. And so you found one that does $40,000 loans.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Okay. Yeah. So actually, it was Bank of America.
Bank of America.
Yeah. Shout out to Bank of America. And I think the reason why Bank of America was great with this is because it was a conventional loan. it was 20% down. So this was not I barely have enough for 3.5%. Like, we got some skin in the game. We got 20%. And they also said, oh, there's two business partners. So we're going to do a credit check on both of you. And we're going to check your debt to income ratio on both of you. And that way, if Sean can't afford this property, oh, we're coming after David Shea, my business partner, because now we have two on the record. So that's why this was easy. They were like, oh, yeah, we'll take it. 20% in. They got two partners. They got income. They got some expenses. Boom. They're both on the mortgage, on the deed. They were happy. It was very easy once it was bank approved. They stepped away and they said, all right, we're looking forward to closing.
Boom. Love that. Love that. And so what was your monthly payment on that thing?
Monthly payment started at $340 a month.
Okay. And did you have HOA or anything like that, or is that included?
We had a $40 HOA. $40. So we're spending $380. And then we hired a property management company. In North Carolina, they charge 10%. So another $35 or so. So call it our monthly expenses is about $425, $420 per month. Okay. And we hired a property management company in January. Took them about a month or two to do contracting and get the listing up. February 1st, we had it on the market, and on March 14th, never forget it. You ever hear a side note when people get their first paycheck, they get the dollar or the check and they frame it and put it up somewhere. We kind of did.
Oh yeah.
We got our first rent check, and that was March 15th, 2014, and that was $820 was what the rent was. $820.
Wow. So you're making
about about $290 cash flow, because we were paying $420 for $4.20 for mortgage, interest, taxes, HOA, and then so $420 minus the $820, about $300 profit at that time.
Okay, and you probably set some aside for expenses and all that kind of stuff too, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look at it yearly, so it's not a lot of money, right? $300 a month profit is $3,600 per year, right? So you set aside that $3,600 per year, and you factor in 20% vacancy, so add in another $700 of or more like $1,000 to $1,400 of lost rent for maybe 2 months. That if they move out the following year and it takes you a month or two to turn it around. So we factor that in. Luckily, the first 4 years, the tenant stayed for 3 years. Next tenant came right in, and they stayed for about 2 years. And we also did not have any major expenses over $100 each year for that property.
Wow! And so that's some of the upsides of getting a condo, right? Is oftentimes the big expenses are taken care of by the HOA, like the roof or the siding or a lot of the exterior stuff. Not really, you're paying the HOA fee, obviously, but it comes out of that. Hey everyone, big news. Investify has now partnered with Rent Ready. And yes, we've partnered with Rent Ready because that is the software system that both me and Ziana use to do property management for our rental properties. It makes things super easy. We can send applications, get background checks and credit checks. Tenants, when they come in, can pay rent automatically through there. They can submit maintenance requests, do everything you need to do for property management all in one place. That's why Rent Ready is the thing that we've done. I've been using them for years now. And that's why we reached out to them for a relationship on the show. And so again, super excited to have them on board. If you go to rentready.com and use the code Investify, you'll get 50% off your first 6 months. That's right. 50% off your first 6 months. If you go to rentready.com, sign up and use the coupon code INVEST2FI. And can't wait to see you there. Let us know, hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on wherever, and let us know what you think of Rent Ready. Because again, I think it's an amazing software. I use it all the time. You can access it from your phone. Amazing stuff. So thanks so much. And let's get back to the episode. You're making $300 a month. Mind you, this is a $70,000 property, right? And so you're getting the 1% rule. You're getting the 50% rule. You're basically, you're checking all the boxes. All of the rules of thumb for 2014, you hit them. And so let's kind of how do you scale your real estate from there, right? What happens after that? You see the magic of real estate, you probably get addicted, and then you just buy and buy and buy.
Exactly. Yeah, that's how it works. You get the real estate bug. You start itching a little bit. You're like, I want to get another one.
Oh yeah,
Let's go.
It's a disease for sure. We got to think of a disease name for that, like real estate-itis or something.
Yeah, exactly. And so we were like, we want to buy one every year. Okay, I don't know if that was realistic, but we said let's give it a shot. And so we just rinse and repeat. So we went out again in 2015. So 14 we ran it. 2015 we went out again, and we said, can we find another property for $60,000 or less? And the answer was yes. There's actually 3 on the market. Long story short, we found another condo that we purchased, and this one was great. It was actually brand new. We walked in, and there was not even walls. It was just cords and metal hanging down, and they had this offer where it's like, if you can buy it and live in it or put 25% down as an investor, and you can have it. $61,000. 2-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom condo, $80 HOA fees. We said, let's do it. We made an offer, and that was our second property, also in Greensboro, North Carolina. Got it for about $61,000, and that one, same mortgage, $350 per month, and the rent was about the same. So now we had 2 properties.
Okay.
That cash flowed about $300 a month.
And it sounds like you had to do a little bit of work to the second one if there was stuff hanging and.
Second one was brand new construction.
Oh, brand new construction. Oh, okay. So when you looked at it, stuff was saying by the time you bought it, it was all set.
It was clean. I can eat my dinner off them floors, Craig.
Damn. Well, did
good.
you have to eat your dinner off those floors at all?
No, because we never saw it totally clean.
Love it.
When we made the offer, we do what they call dry closings.
Yep.
Where on the closing date, especially in North Carolina, every state's different. In North Carolina, you need a real estate law company. And they do all the transactions. In California, states like California, you have an escrow company. And they do everything. Mm-hmm. And so North Carolina, we went there. We looked at it in July. We made an offer, August, and we closed. And we just signed a paper. We have a picture of us signing papers. And we're like, I guess we own it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Our agent hit us up in 2 days. It was like, yeah, you can go on Guilford County, NorthCarolina.com, and you can type in your names. And guess what? You'll see the owner of Swan Haven Lane in Greensboro, North Carolina. Great, love it.
Boom. So now you got 2 properties. They're each cash flowing you $300 a month, right? And so this is the magic of kind of like the slower, like the cheaper markets, right? It's like you get smaller cash flow per month. It's a little bit less bang for buck for each deal, but you're able to scoop up lots of deals, right? And so you know easily be able to pick up 1, 2 in 2 years. And so I guess what happened? So that was 2015. You said?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, I've left out a property that we got in 2014.
Okay.
Because this one was a little bit different. This one was our first time of house hacking. Mm-hmm. And so it didn't follow our investment strategy that we planned out as, okay, we're going to buy these investment properties. Mm-hmm. What had happened was my business partner said, I want to go back home. My family's in Chicago. I want to go back home. I want to work, and I'm going to relocate. I'm like, oh, man, at this point, my rent was $1,600 in 2012. Then it was $1,500 in 2013. And in 2014, it was $800 because we became roommates. I was cutting my costs. I was like, well, I don't want to go back to renting by myself. My friend, roommate's leaving. I'm going to go back to dropping $1,600. I was spending that extra money in Vegas, having a good time. Yeah. So what I did was I said, well, how about I buy a house? And, we treat it as part of the business. We put in the operating agreement. We split everything 50-50. And I live in it. And we find a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. I live in one room. And we rent the other 2. He's like, yeah, that's cool. Let's do it. 50-50. Let's put in an agreement. We'll treat it like everything else. But I'll only be on the mortgage, right? The other ones, it was 2 of us. I'll only be on it. So we slid that one in there. And we closed in May of 2014 on a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom property in Los Angeles. About 35 minutes from my job. Okay. 30 to 45 minutes. I lived in a room, and I did the numbers, and I said, okay, our mortgage is $1,800. You like numbers, Craig. Our mortgage is $1,800. Okay? Let's rent out 2 of the rooms at $900 each, and let's include utilities. And I'll live in one room for free, but I'll pay utilities for the whole house. About $400 a month, which is kind of high. Maybe more like $300. And we gave it a shot. And I did that for about 9 months. While we looked at the other property in North Carolina, we bought that a little later. I had a place to live, and now we were treating it as part of the business. We brought it under the business agreement, and that was part of Estates LLC. That's the name of our real estate company. That was the first property that we purchased, that I lived in, that I managed myself, because before the other property was managed by a property manager. The next one we got managed by a property manager. And I lived in it, and we started doing rooms for rent. And that was the beginning of learning about house hacking.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's great, man. What did you buy that property for in California?
We bought that for $262,000.
Okay. And so these are still different times, right? Where, you're not probably finding properties that cheap, but don't let the times detract you from buying a property. Because I know when I was buying my first property in 2017, and you maybe thought the same way when you were buying yours, like, holy crap, this is like kind of expensive. Like 3 years ago, it was like half this price. I had a buddy that bought a duplex right next to mine 3 years prior for $110,000 less than me, and I was like, I'm getting so screwed here. But now my property's worth double, right? And so you're going to have the same feeling is going to happen, and it may not be the same time period. Obviously, the last 5 years has been really good, but maybe in the next 7 or 10 years, like, oh wow, like I'm glad I bought then, because if you buy 7 years from now, it's going to be a lot worse. And so there's never really like a bad time to get into real estate, if you want to ask me, as long as you're buying for cash flow and to buy and hold.
Yeah, but let me tell you this, Craig. We set a budget for $300,000 because we're like, okay, how much can we afford? 5% of $300,000 is $15,000. So let's $7,500 each. Okay, we made a mistake, Craig, because we went to a property that was $330,000, but it needed work, like $15,000-$20,000 of work. But it was 10 minutes away from Inglewood, and we passed on that one. And we went to one that we don't regret getting the one we got, but the property that we did look at that was out of our budget, that one doubled. And that one was worth about $750,000 because the SoFi Stadium, the Rams Stadium, is 10 minutes down the street. We had no idea. So we kind of kick ourselves a little bit. But like I said, Greg said it best. Don't worry about, same thing. February previous year, the owner bought that property for $120,000, and he put about $80,000 into it. So he's $200,000 in. He sold it for us to $262,000. He made $62,000 in a matter of about 6 months, right? And so you're going to look at those numbers, Zillow, HotPads, they give you those price histories. You're going to see that it's going to hurt your feelings. But don't let that discourage you, because if you buy something for $262,000, you never know what it'll be worth later on. Another tidbit is we get our properties licensed and officially appraised every 3 to 4 years instead of just trusting Zillow, because even the Zillow CEO may have said the algorithm's not 100% correct. And so that gives us a level of confidence to know that the appreciation rate and how our properties are performing from a cash flow perspective.
Interesting.
And also from a value perspective.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're looking at return on equity. Do you look at that number at all?
Yes.
Because really the only reason to get an appraisal, right, is to understand what the value is, so you can say, hey, like, what is this cash flow based on the equity, and can I take some equity out? And so have you done anything with your portfolio to scale even further, like refinanced or HELOC or anything like that?
We have not done HELOCs. We have done refinancing a couple of times. We've done a couple of occupancy changes. I have not leveraged out of the equity just yet. Let's start with that $262,000 property. We had it appraised November of last year. It appraised at $530,000.
Damn.
So it did, in theory, double. And so we're sitting on $280,000 equity in that property. We have our Greensboro property, so we have three in Greensboro, 3 condos, that is. So we have the equity. We haven't leveraged against the equity just yet, but it puts us in a position where if we want to, we can. But more importantly, we also know that the strategy is working. We're cash flowing and we're getting appreciation. Not every market can do that. A lot of times in the South, you'll get great cash flow, but you won't see 20-25% appreciation year over year.
No, and I kind of love that you're kind of playing in both fields, right? I do the same thing. And it's funny, I've got properties in North Carolina and Denver, and in North Carolina, it's like that's straight cash flow play, right? Like, I don't care if that ever gets a dime of appreciation. That's like my steady Eddie. But you want to put your money in something that'll appreciate too. In LA, it sounds like you're getting both cash flow and appreciation. I think in every single market in the United States, at least almost every single market in the United States, you can get cash flow and appreciation. You just have to get a little bit more creative at these times. And so what does your portfolio look like today? Like, now we're in 2022.
A lot of mortgages, over $1 million of mortgages. That's all right.
Oh my God,
I
you're
told
over
my
$1 million
mom that
in debt? Oh my God, what are you ever going to
I told
do?
her that. So, yeah, right. Sorry, mom. I got $1.2 million. She's like, really? Of debt. So, I purchased 7 properties, of which 3 were condos. Let's see. No, 4 were condos. 1 was a duplex, and 1 single family residential. 2 single family residentials. And I sold. I'm a first time home seller. I don't know if that's a term, but I sold one of my first properties. And we can talk about that. That's another deal I want to cover the details, because that one was a little bit more in modern times. That was a short-term rentals, Airbnb, Vrbo, all that. We could talk about that next. But that one I bought and sold. So now there's 6 properties. 3 condos are in North Carolina, 1 single family in Los Angeles County, 1 condo in Orange County, and 1 duplex in San Bernardino County, California.
Okay. So you're splitting between kind of that Southern California area and North Carolina. And is your partner, Mr. Shea, I think you said his name was, is he still on all these deals with you?
So I actually we have 3 of the condos together as part of the business in North Carolina. He's actively involved in, and then 1 of the single family houses in Los Angeles County. That's part of the business. The one in Anaheim, Orange County, I purchased on my own in 2018. And the one that I sold, I bought that in Desert Hot Springs, which is near Palm Springs. Shout out to Coachella. Bought that one in 2016, sold that one in 2021. I own that one. And then the last one that I got, the most recent one, I bought in November of 2020. And that's a duplex in San Bernardino. So I have 2 properties myself, and then together we have the 4. So 6 properties remaining.
Okay, perfect. And I really love the San Bernardino market and that like Inland Empire market as well. We're actually going to be expanding our team down that way too. So hint to anybody looking for house hacks in the real estate market, definitely hit us up. And so what is your, I guess, what made you pick these different markets, right? So, I mean, LA, obviously, because you live there, but why San Bernardino? Why Orange County?
Wow. Where you work is important, because not only does it determine your transportation if you're going to live in a property. So remember, we did house hacking with primary residences. So I lived in the LA house. I did for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years actually, until I bought another property as a primary residence in Anaheim, just 15 minutes away from my job. So I wanted to look for markets that I can buy a primary residence legally, that a bank would give me a loan, as well as that is somewhat close to my primary work location. I work in an office. And then thirdly, it has to fit the numbers, and it has to be a market that I believe we can get rental income and cash flow positive. So those are the criteria. And I have had property in 4 different counties in California, and each offer different benefits. If you're close to Coachella, you're going to bring in a lot of party folks across the world. So that's probably short-term rentals. If I did traditional rentals on that property, I would barely be able to cover my mortgage. In the Anaheim area, you got Disney, but Disney has a lot of grass over lodging and short-term rentals. So maybe that's not a good idea for me to do short-term rentals in Anaheim. And then lastly, in San Bernardino, the Inland Empire, it's a way more affordable area than most, and it's kind of out there in the desert, and it's hot. There's some universities, there's some schools, but there's a lot of people who are okay with maybe not being in right around the metropolitan area. They kind of want to be on the outskirts. Perfect option for them to be tenants, and so I would do a rooms for rent for that one as well. So those are kind of the 3 criteria that I looked at of why I would choose those areas that are somewhat close to work, affordable, and the market kind of matches the strategy.
I love that. Yeah, proximity to work, like proximity to your lifestyle, is also super helpful. And if it works for you, it's probably going to work for a lot of different other people as well. I don't think you're special in that, hey, you're working a civil engineering job and you want a cheap place to live. And, there's a lot of people like that, and they're going to want the same exact thing that you want. You're just now the landlord providing people value versus being the tenant.
Hey guys, if you're thinking about becoming a real estate agent like us, you might want to go to Kaplan. That's where I got my license, and I found that they made all this really dull information actually kind of interesting and very memorable. So if you're looking at getting your license, see if they have your state. They cover a lot of states, but not all of them. And if you want to get a little discount, use our code INVEST2. So the word invest and the number 2. Thanks, guys.
All right, man. So you started this journey in 2013. It sounds like you've built up quite the portfolio. And so where is your passive income at now? And have you hit that financial independence mark? It sounds like you're pretty darn close, at least.
I'm getting close. So we have the 4 properties in the business, and then I have the 2 properties on my own. So the passive income on the business side is about $1,700 per month, $1,700. We've got the 3 condos, and then we have the property in LA. So $1,700 on the business side. And then with my 2 properties, I'm cash flowing about $900 per month per property. So that's about $1,800 passive income as well. But that's currently right now. And I actually do have 1 vacancy because I do rooms for rent and I have a duplex. And there's 1 vacancy that I've been trying to fill since March. And with that vacancy, I'm renting it right now for $1,350 on one of the rooms. I want to bring in another $1,300 on this other room. So when I bring that, that'll go directly to me. And so that'll be an additional $1,300 added on to the $1,800 cash flow or so. So beautiful. My freedom number is $3,500 per month. Not quite there, but with this, when this next income comes in, I'll be probably a couple of $100 shy of that.
Beautiful. And so you're keeping your expenses low, which is not something we talk too much about, but obviously through house hacking, I take it you don't drive like a Mercedes or anything like that, and you're just kind of like a little bit more mindful. Is there anything you do in particular to keep your expenses low?
Woo-wee. I got a whole checklist on things. I made some mistakes, Craig. I have made some financial mistakes in my future, but we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about that the next time. I'm going to tell you some of the good things. So I have never had a car note. Buy cars cash money only. Cash is king. So my first car I got, of course, when I was high school, as a junior with help from my parents. My dad said, drive that car until it's 10 years old. It's like, Dad, you're crazy. No one does that. 14 years later, like, Sean, you need to get a new car. We're scared. It's unsafe. Yeah, I took it from 40,000 miles, Dad, to 340,000. It went from 4 cylinders to 2 cylinders. But guess what, Craig? I had a vehicle I can rely on to get from A to B. It was paid off, had been paid off for 10 years. And I just had to pay for gas and insurance. I continued that trend. So I bought a car in 2019, went to an auction, got it for $4,000, got a Hyundai Genesis 2012. Again, if you can keep your expenses low, it allows you to free up more capital for savings investments. So no car note. I had $50,000 student loan debt when I graduated from graduate school in 2011. I paid $550 a month for 6 years. Didn't like it because only $225 per month went to the principal, the rest went to interest. So I said I need a specific plan to pay these off. Paid it all off in 2016. But then I racked up $34,000 of credit card debt. Yeah, I did.
Ooh.
I did. But I paid it off on my 30th birthday, September 5th, 2018. Paid off all the credit loans. So no credit. I'm living for free. And no car note. Am I financially independent? Well, I still travel and I still have a full-blown fiance that we like to do things together. So, but my mandatory expenses are, which is in most expensive expenses like lodging, transportation, are covered by the residual income from the rent.
Right. I think that's super important, right? It's like you need to get those baselines covered first. And then, Robert Kiyosaki talks about this first. Talks about this too, where it's like, let's get your baseline financial independence, and then you start introducing luxuries into your life, like travel, vacations, and weddings, and wedding rings, and I guess you already got the ring, but all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, man, this all sounds great, bro. I love to hear your success in all of that. And so we are going to head into the final part of our show, the final 4. But before we do you have any last words of advice for the audience?
No, I think continue listening on to podcasts like this. It's really important to have your mind in the right area and environment, your network, just trust me. You keep listening to podcasts like this, read some books, listen to audiobooks, and then talk to your network about real estate. Don't shy away from the huge sticker price. It is the largest purchase of your life. Like, it should be stressful. It's like not buying a pair of shoes. So my advice is stay in the know, read, listen, talk about it, and then always plan. Always plan, put together goals, and then continue reaching out to those who are already there where you want to be, and also work with those who aspire to be where you want to be, to mentor and be a mentee or for someone that's in the area that you want to be in, especially real estate investing, whatever it may be. Flips, short sales, foreclosures, tax liens, tax deeds, house hacking, rooms for rent, short-term rentals, all that.
Love it, bro. Love it, love it, love it. All right, man. We are heading into the Final Four.
The Final Four.
And so these are the same 4 questions we ask everybody. And the first one is, what book are you reading right now?
Okay, so you mentioned one of my favorite authors. I had to go back, and I was going to say Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I'm actually reading a second book. It's a little bit older than most books today that talks about financial freedom. But have you heard of Cash Flow Quadrant? Cash Flow Quadrant was also written by the same. Okay, reason why I'm rereading that now is because it's important to talk about how do we become millionaires. And if you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it gives you some motivation, but it doesn't really tell you how people become millionaires. What is an asset? What is liability? I was on a journey last year to become a millionaire, and I hit that on December 19, 2021. No, I don't have any money, Craig, but I have more than, let's say, assets minus liabilities. So if I have $1.2 million of debt, of mortgage loans, those are the liabilities. But if I have $2.2 million of equity in properties and investments, you do the math, that's $1 million net worth. You are now the first level of millionaire. That came from the book Cash Flow. I was trying to figure out how do you do this. So last year I focused on not just I need to make more money. No, how do I invest in things? How do I increase income? How do I get the appreciation? How do I get the asset level up? And so I've been rereading that book for the past maybe 4 months now, actually since December, and taking the key on how do you get from employee to business owner, or employee to investor, or employee to self-employed, where you have your own business that you grow into a business that has a process. And so that's a great book. Highly recommend it. Very easy read. Gives you some good visuals, and will really challenge how we might have been taught to grow up and look at finances.
Wow. Yeah, that is a classic. I love that book too. And so it sounds like you reread books like multiple times?
Yes, because the first time I did the audiobook and it sounded good, but I didn't realize that there was actually full-blown charts that said most millionaires are made by going from self-employed, an arrow, to business owner. I didn't catch that in an audiobook the first time. So I'm actually reading it now and highlighting it.
Wow. Love that, man. Love it. All right, second question. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice I've ever received was the 5 or 6 P's. Proper planning prevents poor performance. 5 P's. You heard it before?
I think maybe, but I like it.
Well, there's also another version. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. That's the 6 P's.
The 6 P's. Yeah, there you go.
You've heard of that one.
Do you got 7 P's?
I can, but it has a bad word in it I'm not allowed to say.
Yeah.
So that's the best advice, is I now plan out everything. I have lots of plans. They may not be the best plans, but I have a plan for 12 months, 6 months, 3 months. So when I say plan, financial plan, budget, what investments am I looking at for next year? I'm interested in buying a boat and starting a chartering business. Well, what's the plan? Let's write it out. It got to be written plans. So when I got that advice, I was actually in high school. I looked at it as just, can I plan out your life? But now I treat almost everything like it's a project. So my next real estate investment, I have a 12-month plan, 6-month plan, and a 3-month plan. What I should be doing at each stage to line up with that next goal.
I love that. Another thing that reminds me of, and it's the same thing, but just different words. I heard John Wooden, who was like a legendary basketball coach for LA. You know him, UCLA. Yep. He says, "Failure to prepare is preparing for failure," and that always stuck with me.
Yeah.
I think Benjamin Franklin might have said it too, but Ben Franklin probably said it first, but I heard it first from John Wooden. So
Yeah, that's right.
yeah. Cool, man. All right, question number 3 is, Sean, what is your why?
Ooh, I remember this question. My why is so I can spend time with the people I love and care about. That's the end goal, right? It's not about making money. It's not about, being invested and having necessarily all these multi streams of income. It's so that way you can literally be financially free, financially independent. What does that mean? The why is my vision. I wake up in the morning and I can go to my daughter's dance recital. I can go to my daughter's sports game, my son's this or that. It's because, I might have 7 streams of income, and I have the ability to spend time and travel, spend time with family. So that's the why. And as we might have said before, real estate is the most common way to wealth, and small business is the fastest way to wealth. And so if you work both sides of those angles slowly, especially having a great career that you enjoy and you learn skills and you network and you collaborate with others and other people who are like-minded, it just makes life better. And so the why is to get to the ultimate point where you can spend time, I can spend time with family and friends, and the money comes in and funds a lifestyle that we appreciate and love very much.
Love that, bro. Love it. Okay, final question. Are you afraid of horror movies?
No, actually, I enjoy horror movies, and I kind of get scared easily. But I grew up as a sci-fi person. Just shout out to Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, X-Files, and then matriculating more into the 2000s, the Screams, the Saws, the Fridays, all that horror film stuff, Paranormal Activity, Blair Witch Project. It goes on and on. So I like horror. I like to live on my seat, at the edge of my seat a little bit, and just have fun and actually enjoy a movie experience.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. I love that. I grew up loving horror movies, and then I guess my wife now doesn't like them, so I don't really watch them too much anymore. And now if I watch them, I'd probably get super scared and not be able to sleep. So definitely like a learned trait, and you definitely can lose it if you don't use it. So all right, Sean, where can people find out more about you?
Excellent. So the best thing is TikTok. I love TikTok. I've never been a social media fan, but my fiance is a Emmy-nominated TV producer, and so you got to get on TikTok. So January 1st, I started posting on TikTok every day. Find me, Sean the Real Goal Setter. Sean the Real Goal Setter on TikTok. That's SEAN. I do everything from fitness, travel, real estate. And you can DM me, you can set up link trees, you can do all that. You can go to our website, therealgoalsetter.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Sean M. Allen, PMP, Realtor, Facebook. Ooh, the list goes on. I have a link tree that I like that has some articles based upon my saving strategy and how to become a millionaire, and also a checklist to real estate. So, but TikTok is the first place I would go because I'm on there at least 3 times a day.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on the show. Guys, definitely give Sean a follow. Give him some love. And if you like this episode, reach out to him, reach out to me. And, just let us know how everything went. Sean, thanks so much for coming on again, brother. And we'll talk soon. And that was Sean Allen. Man, I really liked Sean today. He just seemed like a really cool, down-to-earth guy that's super, super relatable, right? Anybody can do exactly what he did, right? Go find some cheaper properties out of state where you know people, start investing there, simultaneously while house hacking in your current market, especially if it's a more expensive market, like he's from LA, so he's kind of going in the LA area, but I know people in Denver doing this, obviously, and Seattle, and a bunch of other great areas as well. And so wherever you find yourself, take a look to see if you can potentially buy a house hack, right? And even if you are in expensive areas like San Francisco or New York, I bet you there's a location within an hour of where you live that you could easily get some house hacks. And so ask yourself, how can you replicate exactly what Sean is doing? Because it's super relatable. And, he achieved $1 million net worth in, I think, 7 or 8 years, which is great, right? Started from nothing and got to $1 million. And so, I just admire his success. I admire what he's doing. And now he's trying to teach a lot of other people doing this as well. And so if you really like this episode and you really like this show, please give us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. It helps me out and helps Z out. It helps this whole show out and everybody listening out so much so we can get better guests, continue to grow the show, and again, just keep on crushing it like we've been doing. And so, yeah, please hit us up on Instagram. I'm the Fi Guy. Ziana is Ziana McIntyre. And just, let us know how we're doing. And if you've left us a rating and review, we'd love to see it. So thanks so much, and we'll see you all next week.
That's it for this episode of Investify. We hope that these nuggets of real estate wisdom lead to more savvy financial planning and a clearer path towards financial freedom. For more content like this, subscribe to the show at investify.com. Don't forget to leave a rating and share it with your friends. Together, we can transform more real estate newbies into successful and clever investors. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.